You ready for the cool weather, Lynette?
I am.
You are.
Yeah,
Okay.
finally.
I, you know what? I'll sleep. I'll probably sleep real well, but I don't know that I'm ready for cool weather. I'm definitely I like the warm weather. It's why I've got a place in Florida. I like the heat. Not ready to give up summer just yet, but
Mm,
looks like we're going to have to.
yeah.
845-1100 is the number to call. I know we had some people waiting, so if
Not anymore.
they've cleared, so call back. The lines are now open. You can call in, and we've been talking about really two issues this morning. One, the issue of crime in Chicago and the National Guard being brought in, and the other issue is the horrible beating of the individual in Hessville Park in Hammond, and the great news that the Hammond police have been able to identify and arrest and capture one of the leaders of this beating. He is a 25-year-old male who senselessly punched repeatedly the individual, the victim, in the face, knocking out a total of 6 teeth, and just no reason for it, no explanation for it, no provocation. This is a young man who just is. Everybody that I've spoken to said he's a very nice individual. People know him. He bags groceries at a local supermarket, and how he could be the target is beyond me. And I do know a family member, and they've told me about the story, and I've seen the actual video, and it's horrible. It is just disgusting that anybody could could engage in that type of activity. So 845-1100 is the number to call, and we have callers. So good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Hey, you can what if it all day, Tom, but had there been National Guard on that bike path, you think that would have happened?
Probably not. I agree with you there, but my
Tom,
again, I
stop.
have
Stop.
no you
Stop.
no you stop. Let me you asked me, so let me answer. Okay, you like to call
Had
and
to,
you like to make a lot of comments, but you don't want to engage in conversation, and we're going to have a conversation. My concern on the National Guard is this. Number one, the National Guard is limited in their law enforcement capabilities. Okay, they're allowed to defend themselves. They're allowed to restrain individuals, but they can't make arrests. And when you put them in Chicago, you've got a bunch of gangbangers who, as I understand it, are also looking at the National Guard as an opportunity for them to have a great big show. And I don't want to see a National Guardsman or anybody else serve as a sitting duck. And there's my concern. When you listen to people like Willie Wilson, who I listened to an interview on another station the other day, he brought up the same issue. He's a proponent of bringing the National Guard in, but he said, I'm concerned because they have limited law enforcement powers, and will they be sitting ducks? So there's my concern. Now go ahead.
Tom, let's have more eyes and ears out there. So punks like this on the bike path and on the streets of Chicago, on the sidewalks of Chicago, where you know it happens. And let me ask you this. With COPA, and you know COPA better than I do, how many Chicago cops are afraid to do their job?
Oh, I totally agree with you. I have a lot of friends that have been Chicago police officers, many of whom are now retiring because of things like COPA. COPA, the Civilian Review Board, they're making decisions based on not being police officers. Okay, I've talked about this on the air over the years. I've negotiated a lot of police contracts in this area, and I've learned a lot about law enforcement, but I'm not in law enforcement. And I don't pretend to be, and I don't have the knowledge or the experience that they have. I've had police officers, as you know, on this show, and from their perspective, it's totally different. Look at what COPA did with the one boy, the 12-year-old, where they turned him out to be almost a saint that was pulling a gun on an officer, so the officer shot him, and then they claimed that it was that it was a wrongful death, and the police officer should be charged. Remember that one? where the mom was turned out to be a saint because she didn't know where her son was for 3 days, and he was shooting at police officers, and then COPA came in and said, oh well, the police officer shouldn't have shot him. But the video shows the kid's reaching for his gun and reaching to shoot his gun, and so the police officer fires first. I think COPA is a tragic mistake. It's an example of what's wrong with the city of Chicago. So I agree with you there.
So as long as the National Guardsmen are briefed before being deployed, and they'll do the right thing, I think more eyes is better out there.
Well, I think more eyes are better, and I think that as long as the National Guardsmen are armed, when they brought them into Washington at first they weren't, but they need to be armed so they can protect themselves and they can protect others. And if they're stationed in specific locations, I think it would be helpful. But the idea that the National Guard's going to go up and down streets, I think, is a mistake.
Hey, speaking of word on the street, are you having that best candidate for Sheriff Jason Gore on this morning?
I'm having Jason Gore on at 7 a.m. That's correct.
You think he deserves that job?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him yet, so this will be a chance to get to know him this morning. And I know that he's a federal law enforcement officer, has many years in law enforcement. So does, however, his opponents. Maria Trajkovic has been a police officer for many years. She was on with me a couple weeks back. And Steve Flores was on. He's the St. John police chief. So they both have great experience too. So I think it's important for listeners to get to know the candidates, and I look forward to talking to Jason this morning.
Tom, did you see where Mr. Gore had the backbone to call out our current sheriff on that overpayment?
I did see that. I did see that he made comment about the State Board of Accounts audit. Yes.
Do you notice I haven't seen, maybe I've just missed it, I haven't seen any other people running for that post do that.
Well, I'm not sure if they have or not. I have not seen, I know that I saw Gore. You're right. I saw that he did that. Yes.
In the meantime, I see that other candidates align themselves with our current sheriff, who has a record of, if it's walks and talks like a duck, it might be a duck.
Well, I have to say, though, Maria Trajkovic, one, she works for Lake County Sheriff's Police Department. She has to be a bit careful because she's currently an officer there. And I didn't see that she was basically touting the Oscar Martinez line by any means when she was on. And I don't think Steve Flores, I think he made very clear that he's the police chief of St. John and that he looked forward to working with the men and women of the Lake County Sheriff's Police Department, but he didn't sit here and glorify or specifically tie his campaign to Oscar Martinez either.
Well, he sure takes a lot of photos with Oscar, hugging and kissing.
Well,
I just think that I think Gore's the best candidate for the job, working on the local and federal level, and I hope that he has the intestinal fortitude to stand tall and do the right thing.
Well, we're going to find out very shortly. He's going to be with us in about 15 minutes. So I look forward to talking to him. I really do. Hey, thanks for the call.
Ask the tough questions, Tom.
I will. 845-1100. 845-1100 is the number to call. Have another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, sir. How are you today?
Fine. How are you?
All righty. Going through the WGN News this morning, and then I saw it again on the Times. Did you happen to see where Space Command is going to get moved from Colorado to Alabama because Colorado has paper ballots?
Well, I saw that they're going to move it from Colorado to Alabama. To me, look, that if that's the reason, that's just a stupid reason. Okay, that's a ridiculously stupid reason. Now, if they're moving it, my understanding is they're moving it to Huntsville. Is that correct?
I don't remember the city that it was moving to, but it's going to Alabama.
Huntsville has had installations from NASA all the way back to the 1960s. So if they relocate it for good reason, such as because they have facilities there already, it makes sense. If they're moving it because Colorado has paper ballots, that's politicizing a situation that's totally unnecessary. All right, let's not make issues out of things that aren't issues.
I understand where you're coming from, because I believe it's bogus reason anyways, but the video clip that they showed on Channel 9 News this morning, and that's why I'm specifying Channel 9 so you can reference it if you want, fact checkers, whatever you want to do. They did show the video clip where he said that Colorado has write-in ballots, and that's fraud waiting to happen, so we're going to move it to Alabama.
You know, look, each state, the laws in this nation have been this way for years. Each state gets to choose how they operate their elections, all right? And, you know, Indiana used to have the old mechanical machines, and I can remember a guy by the name of Ed Lukowski who used to give a training for precinct committeemen back in the day, and he would show how if you put a certain size rubber band that's used by orthodontists on the back of the lever, it would cause the lever to move back up. I mean, it was like, here's how to fix the machine. I mean, they literally would tell it. I think Ron Matlock called in before because Ron and I sat there together through some of those trainings, and it was laughable. That was in the early 1980s that they were teaching people how to do that. We now have the electronic machines. Some people don't like the electronic machines. They claim they can be hacked. Well, you know, I suppose the only way you can have a foolproof election is to line each person up and have them state who they're voting for. But that's totally illegal and something that we would never support in the United States. So I think that if they're moving the facilities from Colorado to Alabama because of paper ballots in Colorado, that's just a stupid reason. I totally agree with you. Hey, thanks for the call.
Okay. All right,
845-1100, we've got some more callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Thank you, sir, for bringing up this subject, because when I first heard it and I read Mr. Davich's comment, who's an absolute leftist liberal from the Miller section of Gary originally, I knew there was more to the story than the compassionate nature of some of the family members of the young gentleman who was beaten. The family members, individuals on these stations, the family member was concerned about, the youth, the 13, he mentioned 13-year-old, if you will, who did the beating. So the immediate concern of the family of the person who was beaten was to show compassion to one of the so-called youths that did this beating. Then come to find out, read further what you stated, read what I hear, Mr. Goddard, gentleman, well, I'll use that term loosely, driving by, had absolutely nothing to do with the scenario, just decided to beat the snot out of the young man. And let's face it, Tom, you know as well as I, you as any of us with a bit of intelligence could recognize an individual that has some disabilities mentally or otherwise. So he knew it. It's worse. It's tragic. But like the earlier caller stated, these things happen, but people don't report it. We have Ring cameras now. We have the other cameras on door. If this was 20 years ago, like Mr. Tom McDermott Jr. stated, this would not have been solved.
Oh, I agree. I agree. It would not have been solved. And by the way, one of the reasons why it's being solved, and again, not taking anything away from the Hammond Police Department, they're doing a great job solving this situation, and they deserve a lot of credit. Part of the reason is because these morons who perpetrated this attack actually videoed the attack.
Yes.
I saw the video. I've seen part of the video, and I have to tell you, it's very disturbing to watch. And I don't want to forget, Kishan Ortiz Kiwan Brooks, moron of the year, okay, who basically went and beat the daylights out of a defenseless autistic adult in a park, had no connection, no reason to do so other than the fact that he was driving by and he just decided to get out of his car and hit the guy repeatedly in the face.
Right.
So I looked this guy up last night. I wanted to see what's his background. Well, other than the fact that he's got some driving offenses and some minor issues, there's not a lot there. I saw where he works. He works in Portage as a picker-packer. He doesn't have much of a job, and not a surprise there. And this individual just decided to get out of his car as he's driving through a park. He sees these kids taunting and harassing this guy, so he gets out and he's going to show everybody how strong he is by punching the daylights out of this person. He also has a LinkedIn page. You can find him on LinkedIn. I searched him last night, and I hope every employer searches him because those charges pop up right away. And I hope this guy goes away for a long, long time in prison. And he can sit there and he can tell his cellmates about his moment in glory, how he was the idiot that beat up an autistic individual. Wow.
But Tom, didn't you wonder why, and I hear it on these airways, why some of us don't trust the media? Mr. Davidge's article stated nothing about any racial slurs, anything to do with the fact, like you stated, this young man was part Asian, nothing to mention that the people doing the beating were taunting the N-word. None of that was in there. So, but then who do not trust the media, we're told it's your fault because you need to search further. So it's my fault that I pay for news, pay for it handily, and I don't get the full picture. But it's my fault. It's your listeners' fault. It's the people that are skeptical of media. It's our fault. It's amazing to me, Tom. But again, from the start, I knew there was more to the story. And again, this has happened for decades, and not just Hammond, okay? Not just Hammond. It's happened in your community just to the east of you for decades. No one talks about it. No one can talk about it because we only talk about it one way only. And if you don't, you're going to be beat down verbally by bringing it up.
Well, let's just be honest. Discrimination is wrong against any individual. And the Supreme Court actually has reinforced that view in a couple of cases this past year that discrimination, regardless of the reasons and the motivation, is always wrong. And in that case, they were talking about a case in employment where an individual was denied a promotion and it was given to another individual because of their sexual orientation in that case. Well, look, this is wrong. What happened was totally wrong. These are individuals that need to be held accountable. The great news is the Hammond Police Department is on the case, and they're picking away at the evidence. The morons took a video of it, so you can see the video, you can see the faces. Paul Goddard has posted the pictures of some of these individuals, so it's out there. They've gotten two of them, including the guy that actually knocked his teeth out. So the story continues to unfold, but the good news is that these people are going to be in custody, and thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you, sir.
845-1100, we've got some more callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Here's a couple of political cartoons that say a lot about the Democrats these days. Here's one, Bronco out of Washington Examiner, and it shows Governor Newsom talking to the Democrat jackass, and he says, Trump's authoritarian tendencies are interfering with our authoritarian policies, and he's holding up a list of this headline, California, mandatory electric cars, banned guns, no parent rights, no water, highest taxes, COVID mandates, DEI mandates, which is just the current term for racial quotas, regulations, and so forth. And that's putting it mildly.
Walt, the problem is that politics has become too much of a focus in our lives. And I wish that the politicians could learn to talk to each other and to step back and give us all a break. And I'll just go back 2 callers ago, the person that called in about the idea that Donald Trump is going to move the Space Force headquarters from Colorado to Alabama. Now, when I first heard it, I thought, well, that made sense because I know that Huntsville has huge influence in the space program. But then he said, no, according to this morning's news, it's based on his dislike of the voting procedures in Colorado. If that's the case, then shame on him for making that move and suggesting that change. Newsom, Pritzker, you name it. They all need to just shut up and do their jobs. All right. I'm tired of politics being injected into absolutely everything. You've got a situation in Chicago where, again, I'm not sure that the National Guard necessarily will be the answer, but I do agree that we need to have an influx of federal law enforcement officers, and maybe Pritzker could sit down and talk to Trump instead of just being the windbag that he is on television. Mm-hmm. If he sat down and said, look, I can send state troopers if you send these federal agents, and we can coordinate in these communities and make things safer. Listening to some of the people that I've heard in the past week talk about the problems in Chicago, like Willie Wilson, who said you can't believe the problems until you go into the actual neighborhoods and talk to people. And the people in those neighborhoods are being held hostage by gangs and by criminals, and we need to do something. Those are the things that I worry about, or the needless and senseless beating of this individual in Hessville Park. Those are the things that I care about. I don't really, at this point, I just wish that all the windbag politicians would go away and just do their jobs and focus on making lives better for you and I.
Here's another cartoon. It shows Governor Pritzker of Illinois pointing at a map of Illinois, and he says gerrymandering is okay if it is along like my state of Illinois. The truth of the matter is, on the gerrymander howling by the Democrats, the truth of the matter is they're the worst gerrymanders. For example, California, Illinois, Connecticut, for example, there 40% of the voters are Republicans, yet there are 5 congressional seats out of Connecticut, all of them Democrats. Now, how did that happen?
Well, look, gerrymandering has been a tool used by both parties, but primarily, you're right, it's been used by the Democrats for years. And for Pritzker to go on television and talk about how wrong it is to gerrymander in Texas when he's the poster boy, or his state is the poster boy for gerrymandering, is crazy. By the way, let me just give station identification. You're listening to WJOB 1230 AM and 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. It is 7 a.m. Look, this is, to me, it's out of control. Once again, I want fair, equitable elections. I want people who don't have my view or my registration to have rights and representation, and I want my views to be represented as well. And unfortunately, our government system has really been in the toilet for a long time, and our political system basically has been there to protect the turf for a lot of individuals that really have no business representing us. I cannot find one good thing Nancy Pelosi's done in an awfully long time in her term in the House, and the same for Schumer and for what's his name out of Kentucky. He was minority leader in the Senate. what's his
I know
name?
who you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, his wife, he forgets to, Mitch McConnell, he forgets to
Yeah.
talk about his wife and the billions of dollars that her family's made on shipping containers. The only time he was concerned about the economy was when the shipping containers weren't getting into the ports because they were losing money because those shipping containers weren't being turned around. I think there's a whole basket of individuals that just need to be basically put in a shipping container and put out to sea. We need new representation on both sides. And the Democrats and Republicans, you know what, Walt, they're really, truly, they all play this game, and it's just wrong. And I think part of the allure of Donald Trump was he wasn't a politician, and now he's playing politics, and it's just needless politics, and it's wrong. But we have to go to a break. Thank you so much for calling.
Yep.
And we are going to go to a break, and when we come back, Jason Gore, the candidate for Lake County Sheriff, is going to join me, and we're going to ask him some questions about why he believes he's the best candidate for Lake County Sheriff, so keep it tuned right here. We'll be right back after these commercial announcements.